Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 30th, and we have a special guest today. Tom Homan will be joining us shortly, former ICE director. And I was watching before I started the podcast, I was watching the impeachment hearings of Mayorkas and really kind of disappointed listening to the Democrats make this into a partisan issue when it really should just be about congressional members in the legislation upholding our laws, upholding the oath they took, and to stop making this into a Republican and a Democratic issue. And I know that people don't like Trump and his personality, but people have got to start looking beyond personalities and start looking at policies and how much better were things when Trump was in office. And those are the types of things that we need to really start pushing for our neighbors and pushing for our friends and having these conversations, because we really can't have this division anymore in this country. It's not getting anything done. It's costing us as taxpayers more money because all they do is pass these stupid spending bills that, are, 2 feet deep. They're given to these members 3 hours before they're going to have a committee hearing. They don't know what this is all about. And we need to really come together, have these conversations with our representatives, and say, we have to reach across the aisle. We have to talk sense into these people. Because I for the life of me, I don't understand how any of them can sit in that impeachment hearing of Mayorkas and say this, you shouldn't be using impeachment as a policy difference. And that really isn't what it is. This man has dereliction of his duty. He has broken the oath he took to protect this country. And I don't know why Congress didn't put dereliction of duty and treason in the impeachment charges. That was kind of a little surprising to me. And this is why the Democrats are able to attack them, because of the wording of why they're charging him with, why they're trying to impeach him. And let me just look this up real quick, because I want to tell you the wording. Mayorkas impeachment hearing. It came up when I was looking at it just a little bit ago, and I think you'll be a little surprised with the wording. They brought these charges. The first impeachment article set forth by House Republicans, Mayorkas has willfully and systematically refused to comply with federal immigration laws. And the second impeachment article accuses him of breaching the public trust and knowingly obstructing lawful oversight of the Department of Homeland Security. And those are the types of things that the Democrats are going after, saying, well, those aren't impeachable offenses. So I don't think the Republicans use the right wording. Dereliction of duty, treason. I could think of 2 or 3 other words that they could use that would warrant going after him and impeaching him. So this is going to be interesting to watch, because it's usually right along party lines how they vote any of this type of stuff. And I think we all need to stay tuned, and I think we need to get a hold of our representatives and tell your friends, even if they're Democrats or independents, registered voters, that they need to get a hold of their representatives and really push to have this done, because illegal immigration and the open borders is affecting every aspect of our lives. It's affecting our economy. These illegals are set to send $674 billion out of our country this year in remittances back to their families in their home countries. So it affects our economy. It affects our schools and the education of American citizens' children. It affects our healthcare. It affects the welfare and housing and the types of programs that are set up for needy Americans. Those are being ripped out from underneath needy Americans and immediately given to illegals. American taxpayers are forced to pay for hotels, for food that these people are ungrateful for. We're kicking veterans and older people out of nursing home situations, and they're moving illegals in there to have a safe place to stay. They're making kids go back to homeschooling so that they can move illegals into the cafeterias and the gymnasiums of these high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. Where does it stop? And this is all at the direction of Mayorkas, because if he didn't have open borders and wasn't busing these people through the United States and flying them or busing them up to New York, that mayor wouldn't have to be making those kinds of decisions. So it all goes back to Mayorkas, and it is dereliction of duty, and it is not upholding the oath that he took to protect our borders. He is going against the very reason why the Department of Homeland Security was even created. It was after 9/11. It was to protect us from terrorists. It was to protect the home soil, the homeland, from foreign invasions. Those Middle Eastern men and the people who were participating in 9/11, they were here on visas. They were here staying beyond their visas. They should have been going back to their home countries. They were here going to flight school. But nevertheless, they were foreigners. And the Department of Homeland Security was created to protect us from those types of situations. And Mayorkas is willfully just pushing for these people. Come one, come all. Bring your families. Bring your, your cousin who's committed crimes in Colombia. Bring him. We'll let him in here. Bring your terrorist friends, who want to do damage to the United States. Go ahead and let them cross over to the border. We got places for them to stay here in the United States. So this is, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. I'm going to text Tom Homan and see if he's coming on. I hope he hasn't been delayed with something more important, because he's a busy man. He's got a lot going on. He was supposed to be speaking in Texas this weekend at an event I'm going to, and he had to cancel that because of things that are going on. So we are waiting for Tom Homan. It was interesting because I don't know if I can share this. I'm going to try and share this with you. Settings. I wanted to share something with you. Present. Let me get my glasses. Share screen. Let me see if I can pull this up. So this was a hearing that we had in DC, President Trump had called me and wanted me to come to the White House. I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you? Anyway, he wanted me to come to the White House and talk with law enforcement and legislators regarding sanctuary cities. And so I went there, and I was very honored to be sitting next to Tom Homan at the time. And we had this great meeting. And of course, nothing ever went anywhere because Trump wanted to defund sanctuary cities from federal funding and make them get into line and quit allowing these illegals to come in there. But that didn't work. So let me show you another picture. I hope you can see this. I'm not real sure about what's going on here. Remove from stage. Okay, so you were able to see it. All right. Present. Share screen. This is new to me. So of how I'm doing this. This was at a Border 911 event here in Phoenix. This was a couple of years ago. And that was a great presentation. Tom Homan and Jason, I can't remember his last name, but they had a whole lineup of these men and women who came and spoke about illegal immigration and the border and all that. So that was a great presentation. Remove from stage. And then I want to show you one other picture. This is kind of fun. All right, I got to get back. Present, share screen. All right, let me see if I can get it to come on here. Window, there we go. So this was when Angel Families first went into the ICE office. As you can see, Tom and I are a lot younger then. That was Barbara Gonzalez, who was an amazing woman. She worked with Tom Homan, and they created the voice office, the voice hotline. And they really worked with Angel Families to understand what we needed in order to navigate through the cases with these illegal criminals and to know where they were in the legal system, to know when they've been released from jail or prison, and to know that ICE was going to go and pick them up and deport them. So this was definitely something that was happening in the Trump administration. This is not something that was happening under any other administration. In fact, when Trump went into office and Tom Homan took over, let me just read a few things. In May of 2017, Tom Homan announced that ICE had arrested 41,319 people between Inauguration Day and the end of April, a 38% increase from the same period the year before. And on November 14, 2017, Trump nominated Homan for the ICE director. And in February 2018, Homan said that politicians who support sanctuary city policies should be charged with crimes. And that was that meeting that you saw that we were having with President Trump. we were talking about holding these people accountable who were putting these policies into place. Now, Tom Homan, not Tom Homan, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, he had me come down there, and I've talked about this before on this show, but he had me come to DC and testify because he was putting through a bill that would allow angel families, if one of their loved ones got killed in a sanctuary city and that criminal, that illegal criminal, had been released and not held for the previous crimes they had committed. But if those sanctuary policies allowed this illegal criminal to be released and they went on to harm or kill an American citizen, that family would have the capability of suing the federal government. Of course, it was an election year, and I really feel like they used me to come and, oh, Senator Tillis had this angel mom come and testify and blah, 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 blah. It never went anywhere, and it kind of pisses me off when they do that sort of thing. But, back then in 2018, when I went to the White House and was there with Tom Homan at that meeting, that's what we were discussing. But these liberal democratic cities, these sanctuary cities, wanted no part of the fact that the federal government was talking about stripping their federal funding because they were going against, American laws. And it ended up being, it's something that has come back to slap them in the face, hasn't it? I mean, you look at New York, you look at Los Angeles, you look at San Francisco, you look at Portland, Oregon, you look at Seattle, you look at Chicago, just name a big sanctuary city, liberal sanctuary city, and you're going to see the crime and the craziness happening. The crime rate in New York is going crazy. The Roosevelt Hotel is the site of a lot of crime right now. And those happen to be a lot of the Venezuelans who are coming in there. And I think the New York Police Department last week, they ended up confiscating like 120 go-peds and small motorcycles out in front of the Roosevelt, because these illegals, I don't know where they're getting these motorcycles and stuff, but they're not registered, they're not licensed, they don't have any of the necessary things that you or I do to drive those around a big city. So they were trying to cut back on that. And I found out too that what some of these people in New York are doing, if they have a big Uber Eats or those type of accounts, and they're constantly out doing that sort of thing, these American citizens, and I think some other illegals who've been here for a while, they're using it as a racket, and they're taking any and every food delivery possible, and they're filtering it down to these illegals, like at the Roosevelt Hotel. And so they go out and do the delivery and do the work in the cold, freezing cold, and they're given maybe half, probably less than half of what the fees are. So, it's a way of using these illegals, really kind of a slavery situation, right? Or indentured servant for sure. So it's pretty sad that that's what it's come to. And New York knows this is happening, but they still allow it to happen. But I hope they crack down. There's another situation over in New York too. It's Randall Island, and they have a lot of violence out there, and a lot of the illegals that the conservative news stations have talked to are saying that there's gangs, there's weapons, there's drugs. They're not vetted. They're not screened as they're let into these big holding facilities. Like you or I are to go into a football game or a basketball game, you have to go through metal detectors. These people aren't vetted. They're not screened. They're not even screened at the airports. How is this logical? It doesn't make any sense. And so this is the reason why Mayorkas needs to be impeached, because all of those things are against the law. They are against what we stand for as America. It's against legal immigration. I know a lot of legal immigrants, I've been out door knocking, getting petitions signed, and a lot of people that I come across are legal immigrants, and they're mad and they're upset that this is going on and these people are being allowed to come into this country. And on top of that, excuse me, be given all this stuff for free, because when you're a legal immigrant, you have to promise that you're not going to become a ward of the state, that you're not going to be dependent on food stamps or housing or free medical. Those are all the things that a legal immigrant has to do. And I was talking to another candidate last night at a gathering, and she was talking about when her mother came over here. This young woman was born here, so she's an American citizen, but her mother became a citizen and took all the tests, but she was given the United States Constitution, she was given the Declaration of Independence, and she studied, and this young woman said, I was with her when she went down there, and she didn't know how to speak English. She went to school so she could learn how to read and write English and speak it. She was serious about becoming assimilated and becoming an American citizen. And that is what is lacking in all these people who are coming over our border. They don't want to become American citizens. They're just coming here for the freebies, for the jobs, send the $674 billion home to our families, enrich our countries. This money will allow their families to buy a business, a farm, make their lives better, and then leave here in 5 to 10 years and leave this place a complete and utter mess. They're bankrupting the United States. This is a redistribution of wealth. This is what the United Nations has wanted. This is what Klaus Schwab has wanted. These people come here, they work, and send their money home. The United Nations is pushing heavily for these people to come in. If you go to their website, there's an article, 8 good things about remittances. And it actually talks about the fact that that's what they're pushing. They want these people to come to the United States. They want them to send this money out of the country. And it's a sad state of affairs what's going to be happening. And I'm afraid it's going to be something big. We've had a lot of former military men on news stations talking about it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when and how and what they're going to be doing. They're talking about underground tunnels like these Palestinians are doing. You've got a lot of people from the Middle East, and you just don't know what their plan is, why they're being sent here. And we have a president and we have the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security that they don't ask these people, why are you coming here? They don't care why they're coming here. They don't care what their criminal background is. I mean, Border Patrol's doing it because that's what they're trained to do. And I don't think that you can take that out of those Border Patrol agents. They can be sent away from the border to process people, but I think it's grounded in the majority of the good men and women of Border Patrol to find out anything they can to see if somebody's a criminal. Because we've been hearing I've been reading a lot of articles where they're arresting sex predators, people who've murdered in their home countries, just flat out criminals who've done criminal activities from where they're coming from. But the biggest thing is sexual assault. And a lot of those men, they come from countries where it's acceptable for them to have sex with young girls, 13, 14, 15 years old. And this is where the problem of assimilation comes in, because when I remember when my mom and I traveled to England and Paris and the early 2000s, and I didn't go into that country either of those countries expecting it to be exactly like it was in the United States. There's laws, there's their culture, there's ways that they do things, how they look at things. Their laws are completely different. But these people come from third world countries, into the United States, and they don't give any thoughts to the fact that we've got laws that the age of consent to have sex is much higher than what they're used to in their countries. And these men, and a lot of them are from South America, they've congregated in North Carolina, and that is where a lot of child rape and child sex crimes are happening. You can look up a website. It's NC for North Carolina, ncfire.info, and that will give you the most sickening statistics of what these illegals are up to and the sex crimes they're committing against children in North Carolina. It's an epidemic, folks. And unfortunately, in 2018, Sheriff McFadden and 2 other sheriffs were elected into North Carolina, and they immediately made their counties sanctuary counties. And so when an illegal is arrested there in those counties, even if they've sexually assaulted a 3 or 4-year-old, and it happens, they are booked and they are immediately released back into the community. How many of those do you think are going to show back up for their court dates? None. Because they know it's a game now. It's a game of numbers. And they know they can fly undetected in North Carolina. And of course, if the heat comes on, they can just, move on to the next state. That's what's wrong. And that's why Mayorkas should be impeached. So I'm saddened that Congress didn't use stronger language in the impeachment charges, because, like I said, listening to the hearing and listening to what the Democrats are having to say about it, it's all about the way that the committee chair and I guess the whole committee, Mark Green and the committee, how they worded the charges that they were going to bring against him. Dereliction of duty and a failure of your oath are pretty strong words, and it's not anything that they can't prove. When you have a Department of Homeland Security who's supposed to be securing and protecting the homeland, and you're not doing it, that's dereliction of duty. It's treason. And then on top of that, when you think he's not even a natural born citizen of the United States, Mayorkas isn't. He's a Cuban who came to this country, and his family became citizens. So, he does a lot of things too that benefit the Cuban people and the Venezuelan people. And this is a little troubling to me because those are the people that are causing a lot of the trouble here in the United States right now. I guess Tom's just been delayed because I've texted him. I apologize, folks. I texted him and he said he was going to be here. I texted him yesterday, so we'll see if he pops on. We're halfway through the show, and I'm winging it, man, because I was planning on having this great conversation with Tom Homan today. So, let's see. You know what? I'm going to call him and just see if I can get a hold of him so that he'll come on, because he may have forgotten. I know things happen. Yeah, he must be tied up. He wouldn't have just not shown up. So anyway, I'm just going to keep yapping. The other thing, when I was doing a lot of the research, and I know Tom Homan, he's a really good friend of mine, but when I was doing some research, um, he was really given a lot of crap for the child separation at the border. And of course, all kinds of congressional, excuse my Kleenex, but I think I'm getting sick. I'm not sure. But the congressional hearings and the screaming and the yelling and, the AOCs and the crying liberal hearts about separating these children. But what those people failed to acknowledge and failed to understand is that these children were being trafficked. And the Trump administration started implementing DNA testing, and they started realizing, oh, wait, there's a lot of kids that they're not even related to these men that they're crossing with. And so they started implementing the DNA testing, separating the children and doing the questioning and the DNA testing. And that's when it became apparent that these illegals were trafficking children. So, and using them, come across the border, because if you had a child, man, you were going to be let across the border. But bringing them across, and then they were sent back, and then they came across with another man, and then they were sent back. And God only knows what kind of life these children had and what was happening to them. I can't even imagine. I don't even want to go there. But so that's what they were doing, and the Democrats were having a cow. Well, now, Biden stopped doing the DNA testing because it doesn't matter to him what's happening to these children. They've lost over 65,000 children, unaccompanied minors who've crossed the borders. They don't even know where they are. This is not America, that we allow these kind of travesties to happen, that these trafficked children are coming into this country and they've disappeared. The United States has lost track of them. Who has them? What's happening to them? What are people doing to these children? And then you've got the women who are sex trafficked also, and they've got to come over here and pay for years and years and years as indentured servants to the cartel. That's what Mayorkas needs to be impeached about, right? Facilitating human modern day slavery, facilitating child sex trafficking. Why aren't they being held accountable as to where these 665,000 unaccompanied minor children are, when at the end of Trump's administration, there was like 4,000 children that were still left in these facilities? And they were having a cow. The liberals were having a cow about it. But those were children who were brought over. Their parents had sold them to people and brought them up to the United States. Well, when the Trump administration got a hold of them, their parents in their homeland, they said, we don't want our child back. Let him stay in the United States. So that's what those 4,000 children represented, because they knew that Biden was going to become the president. And they knew that if their children stayed up here, they would be able to join him, because that's what the Biden policy was going to be, open borders. So why send them home and have to make that trek back down there? Just leave them there. We'll be joining them soon. That's why Mayorkas needs to be impeached. There's so many reasons. And I don't really think that this is being stressed enough in these impeachment hearings. They are talking a lot about policy, but you need to talk about the human aspect of this and what's happening to people, not only American citizens, but the people coming over the border. That needs to be a fraction of the impeachment charges against him. I honestly feel that, they could have done a better job. I'm really worried that they're not going to get Democrat support on it, because they don't humanize this enough, I don't think. So we shall see what happened there. Let me see. Yeah, so I was going to talk to Tom about why would the Biden administration stop the DNA testing. And where do we end up if Trump isn't elected into office? He's the only option. I mean, knock on wood that these um, legal cases don't take him down and the insanity there. But where would we be if Trump didn't get into office? We cannot afford 4 more years of this complete annihilation of our country. And you've got men from Senegal and from China and from the Middle East. And I'm sure the majority of you have seen that video of that Middle Eastern terrorist who had been in prison for 13 years, 12 years, 13 years, and walked over and said, "You're too stupid to know who I am, but you will find out who I am." That's the brazenness of these people. That's the entitlement of these people. They've come across our southern border. They know Biden and Mayorkas are too stupid to stand up to them. And they're just going to come in here and do what they want to who they want and as many times as they want. Because we have no law and order in this country, do we? Criminals, especially illegal criminals, are completely released back out into the community. And after they've committed crimes, they won't show back up in court. The illegal who killed my son, this May will be 10 years. He didn't show back up in court in Colorado. They caught him coming back across the border one time and took him up to Colorado. But the only thing that the judge in Adams County, Colorado did was give him a slap on the wrist and say, "Don't do it again." They were serious crimes. It was fraud. He had assaulted a police officer. And they just let these people go into our country. Colorado is a very liberal state. They don't have time to deal with these people. But if you are an American citizen and you go to DC and you go into the Capitol peacefully and you want your voice heard because you feel that things are just not right in this country, by damn, you will be thrown in jail for 3 years without a trial. And, you might even have the FBI still knocking on your door because they're going to go after 1,000 people still who weren't even in DC on January 6th. But if you retweeted any of Trump's tweets, if you did this or you did that, you could have the FBI showing up at your door and just ransacking your house, arresting you, not showing you a warrant, and carting you off to jail and not really letting you know what's happening to you. That's what happened to a lot of those people with We Build the Wall. But if you're an illegal and you come in here and you rape a child or you kill somebody, you'll be released back out onto the streets in a sanctuary city to wait for your court date to come up. And then you move out of state and go commit crimes there under a new identity. And hey, this is what the United States is becoming now, a cesspool of illegal criminals and a government that's attacking its own citizens. It's crazy. I'm pretty excited. I'm going to be heading to Texas this week. I'm going to I'm going to be speaking at an event, a campaign event for somebody running for office over there. But I'm going to be meeting up with the truck convoy and then going down to the Shelby Park area. So I'm hoping to have some great video clips that I'm going to be able to bring back and show you here on the show, talking to some people down there who's in the midst of it, and just really kind of showing some patriotic activities that are going to be happening in Texas. We have to stand firm with Texas, don't we? I'm pretty proud of Governor Abbott. There were some times when I really felt like he was dragging his feet. He wasn't stepping up the way that I think that he could have, should have. But he's had some real patriots talking to Ken Paxton and talking to his office and bringing up this law, that law, this case, and figuring out a way that they could do exactly what they just did. Shelby Park is private land, and so they were able to kick the Border Patrol off of it. If it's federal land, Abbott wouldn't have been able to do that. And what's funny is you've got the Supreme Court ruling that Border Patrol could cut the concertina wire. It was only like a 2-sentence long ruling from the Supreme Court. But what it doesn't say is you can't put more concertina wire up, and you can't repair what the Border Patrol agents have cut. So it's just kind of like, what was the point of having a ruling like that? And honestly, it's not because they're trying to rescue people, because this concertina wire at Shelby Park is working, folks. People came across and they sat there for 2 or 3 days hoping to be let through, and the National Guard wouldn't let them through. And so guess what? They've moved downriver and are crossing someplace else. But this proves that barriers work. So that is what we need to take into this Mayorkas impeachment hearing and talk about this sort of thing. This is a very small area down there in Texas. I think it's 2.5 miles long, and it's already shifted where these people are crossing. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. But anyway, I'm going to be excited to be down there and actually feel the palpitation of excitement down there. I mean, just the truckers coming across the United States is going to be amazing to see the convoy. And then to speak at a fundraising event, I'm very excited for that. And also to be at the actual border and see what Texas is standing up for, and to have that video footage for you. I can't, unfortunately, we don't have a governor here in Arizona who's going to step up and stand strong with Governor Abbott. You got all these other governors who do it, and it's pretty sad that Katie Hobbs isn't doing it. Again, like I said earlier, even though she's a Democratic governor, people have to understand this is a problem. When you've got unfettered, illegal border crossers who aren't vetted just pouring into Arizona. I mean, there was a point a week or more ago, I think, that it was like 12,000 a day that they were catching down in the Tucson sector. And it's bad down in the Yuma area. And you've got crops that are ruined in the Yuma area because these people just traipse through the crop fields, and they do a lot of lettuce growing and melons and all that type of stuff down in the Yuma area. And, when they cross through there, sometimes they just squat and go to the bathroom, and that contaminates a whole field of crops. They don't care. They're in the United States. They can do what they want. We've got to start getting a hold of our representatives. I just wish. So let me go back. This is where we can't be divided by political parties. We have to be united by the fact that we've got a treasonous government and a treasonous Secretary of Department of Homeland Security who's allowing the invasion of our country. These criminals and what havoc they wreak on our economy, our hospital system, programs that are there for needy Americans, what it does to our education system. This isn't just affecting Republicans, and therefore it's a reason for Democrats to fight, for Democrats. This is affecting all of us as Americans. So these politicians need to grow a set and stand up to the fact that, yes, this is wrong. And these Democratic leaders in Congress who are sitting in this Mayorkas impeachment committee hearing, and the things that they're talking about, you're losers. None of you have done anything to accomplish making this right. We've got laws that need to be followed. They talk all the time about Congress needs to take care of this. No, they don't. There's already laws in place that deal with this situation, that deal with these rules. And Biden keeps saying, I can't do anything about the border until Congress gets me that bill until the bill comes from the Senate. No, you undid everything by executive orders when you came into office in January of 21. You can re-put them into place by executive orders, just like Trump had done. So you're lying to us. Absolutely lying. The bill that's there in the Senate that Biden is waiting on actually says that Biden will have the ability to let 5,000 illegals into our country a day. A day. And this is what the Republicans are fighting against because, the liberals like to say Republicans don't want, hold on. Yeah, that's 1.8 million illegals a year is what Biden wants to happen. That's 5,000 a day. So that's what the Republicans are fighting against. There's little things in these bills. And the Democrats talk about they don't want additional money to hire more Border Patrol agents. They don't want additional money for technology down at the border. They don't want additional money to help facilitate taking care of these people in these centers, these processing centers. No, that isn't what Republicans want. We don't need more Border Patrol agents. We need the Border Patrol agents released from their processing and babysitting job to go back down to the border and do their job. The technology that these people want, it's not going to be spent on technology. It'll be shoved and earmarked for something else. That's what Democrats do. That's what Mayorkas does. We don't need more processing facilities. We need walls. The amount of money that's going to be spent supporting illegal criminals, is what I call them, in the United States in 2024 is going to be over $351 billion. That's what the United States is going to spend to support these people. And that's not counting city, state, and county costs. That's just the federal government. And Trump asked for like $15 billion to build the southern wall, and they wouldn't give it to him. But they're fine with spending over $351 billion a year supporting illegal criminals. They're forcing us as taxpayers to pay this money to facilitate the invasion. They're not even giving us a choice anymore. So, happy tax season. Isn't it going to be fun doing your taxes and know you got to write a check to the federal government and know the majority of that money is going to go towards supporting illegal criminals? It's crazy. So I would encourage all of you to watch the impeachment committee hearings. I don't know how much longer they're going to go on. I think that they're going to be voting on it in the next day or two. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed because, even though Mayorkas has said to Representative Cat down in Florida, you're not going to like who comes next. The Senate has control over those appointments. So we have to pray and hope that these people don't fold and appoint someone like Mayorkas again. Because there's a lot of controversy behind his appointment. A lot. And he squeaked by, but, I've talked to some of the members of Congress and in the Senate, and they're like, yeah, it was a bad mistake, You don't need somebody. You could tell he was crooked. You could tell just by his body language and his eyes and the expressions on his face during those hearings. I'll never forget them because I was glued to the TV watching it, thinking this man cannot be the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security after having, Chad Wolf and different ones that we had under the Trump administration, and knowing that they held the line. That was a pretty hard pill to swallow, thinking we're going from Chad Wolf to Mayorkas. Really? It was insane. Oh, anyway, I'm going to cut off a little early today because I'm not really feeling that well. And I will be back tomorrow. I'm hoping to get a Arizona legislator to be able to be on my show tomorrow. And then Thursday, I'll probably be running a rerun of my Andy Biggs interview because I'm going to be flying to Texas during my showtime. So that's what's going to happen on Thursday. But I will see you all tomorrow, and I hope you all have a very nice evening.